It's a miracle that any restaurant ever opens. You got to figure out literally everything. There's no package you can buy that's like, oh, we'll take care of this, at least this part. And then you got to raise the money. And then you have to open a restaurant while raising the money at the same time. So you're like literally constructing. It's really a silly business.
It's a lot of hope.
Yeah, a lot of hope.
Yeah. A lot of faith and a lot of just head down and just get it done.
Welcome to the Blackberry Podcast, where we share stories, wisdom, and insight from the amazing people we get to meet and collaborate with here at Blackberry Farm. I'm Sarah Chabot, and my co-host today is Executive Chef of the Barn, Cassidee Dabney.
Hey, everybody.
And we are excited about this episode for a couple of reasons. One, because this is our very first episode in front of the live studio audience. Thank you all for being here. And second of all, we have some really special guests with us. John and Karen Shields have spent decades building something truly extraordinary. Together, they've created a restaurant that has become one of the most celebrated dining destinations in the world, earning 3 Michelin stars and recently being named #1 restaurant in North America by the world's 50 best restaurants. They have James Beard Awards and have been featured in every wine and food magazine imaginable. Thank you so much for being here with us. I want to start out by saying Cassidee and I got to enjoy their food and meet them over 15 years ago at this gorgeous restaurant in Chilhowie, Virginia called Townhouse. Sam Bell, our former proprietor here at Blackberry, rented out the entire restaurant, put 25 or 30 of us on a chartered bus.
Thank God.
Yeah, because driving home wasn't going to be good.
It's a long night.
Drove us up there to a restaurant, and it was an extraordinary experience that the team got to experience. I don't know, maybe it was 17 courses, somewhere around there of really creative, fun food. When you can remember a dish over 15 years ago, that made a mark. And Cassie and I definitely were talking, we still talk about both of those dishes
like
today.
a group, like there's still a lot of us from that bus ride 15 years ago, and we talk about that experience more often than you can imagine. Yeah, so thank you for that.
That's such a Sam Bell thing to do,
Yeah.
just this extraordinary thing. I mean, to schlep you guys all there. You guys were probably wondering where you were going. What are we doing? But we're happy to.
It was such an impressionable moment for us. And also, I think created the possibilities of you can do anything, right?
Yeah.
Here you were in a small town in Virginia, and you were creating this extraordinary experience. So that didn't just come from anywhere. I want to start back at the beginning, and I know you had to be a line cook somewhere in your history.
Oh, yeah.
So take us back to the start of your all story, and you can each take that. But like, where did you first love food? When did you first want to become a chef, and then just carry us through?
Getting into food, I think, was perfect timing. The Food Network was just starting to really ramp up. The shows were really about cooking back then, I think, less competition, more how to. And I started to really get into it and interested. I wasn't really sure what my plan was going into college. And so that seemed like an interesting avenue. I wasn't totally committed to it, I got to admit, when I entered into culinary school. But then stumbled upon a great restaurant in St. Louis. I was going to school there. And the standards were super high to the point where we were getting checked out with flashlights at night for cleanliness, and it was pretty over the top. And so I was really fortunate to land there. And then we were just surrounded by a bunch of young people that were really into bettering themselves, and they were all ambitious. And so it was a perfect storm for me. So really lucky. And but then it was like, well, what's next? And where do we go from here? And one day somebody opened a Charlie Trotter book there, and this is obviously very pre social media or anything. Internet was pretty young, and I'm like, what is this? What's like? It was basically an eye-opening experience. So seeing that was life-changing, and
Right.
I kind of knew instantly that was for me. That's what I liked. I borrowed the book, barely gave it back, but I finally gave it back to
The power of a
my
book.
chef. Yeah, and then really just became obsessed with the idea. How do I get to Chicago? How do I work for Charlie Trotter? And finally made my way to Chicago and got a job there.
Didn't you write a letter?
Well, I did. Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of fun. I mean, I wrote to Thomas Keller because my mom's like, you got to make sure you reach out to the people.
Back
I'm
when
like,
people
all right.
wrote letters.
Yeah. I was like, no, I want to work at Charlie's. I don't want. She's like, just please,
Have
send
some
someone a letter.
options.
Have some options.
I
right?
mean,
Will
Charlie
ya?
Trotter,
So
Thomas
I
Keller.
did. So there was a restaurant in New York called Aquavit, which
Ooh.
at the time Marcus Samuelsson was kind of playing in the avant-garde arena for a while, and then Thomas Keller was obviously the hottest thing going. So I went to New York and actually landed a job at Aquavit and found an apartment and everything. And funny story, I was planning to go up on I was actually booking a flight, and back then it was still dial-up, so it was taking a while, and I was literally going through mail and that I had, and it was a letter from Charlie, and they're like, "We want you to come hang out for 2 days," and so it was like this instant, like, all right, I'm not going to New York, I'm going to Chicago.
Wow.
But like it was like a switch. It was like, I'm going to New York, and then all of a sudden, nope, I'm going to Chicago.
It's because I was there.
That's right,
I was
exactly.
drawing you there.
That's for sure. And then along the way, there was a guy named Grant Achatz. I'm sure everybody knows from Alinea. At the time, he was working at a place called Trio in Evanston, and just doing some of the most incredible stuff then. And, again, like, it was hard to get information back then. So stumbling upon him was like, holy cow, who's this guy? Who's this kid? And it's like, he seemed like a genius. And so I knew, all right, this is perfect. I'm going to work for Charlie. And then my plan was to go work for Grant. And that's how, and then I ended up meeting her at Charlie's.
How'd you get to Charlie?
I worked at a pretty amazing restaurant, similar to the restaurant John worked at in St. Louis, where it's like the standards are, incredible, and all of the desserts were made to order. And I mean, we had to do everything from scratch and everything, on the fly. And so that really humbles you for sure with your skills. So I had like finished culinary school, and that was my first job. So it was similar to him, where it was like that was what we got right out of the gate, was like the best of the best, and that was Al Forno restaurant in Providence, Rhode Island. So still going strong, but and then Chicago had Charlie Trotter's. Really, that was sort of what drew me there too. But I didn't think that I was ready for that as soon as I moved there. So I started at True Restaurant with Gail Gand and Rick Tremonto, and I worked with them for a couple of years, and then got a job at Charlie Trotter's. So.
And then I got there, and I was.
But we were friends. We were just colleagues and buddies for many, many, many years before our personal relationship shifted. So. But yeah, there is a bit of a funny story, like John's first day, like he's nervous, this is like the pinnacle of for young cooks to work in the Charlie Trotter's kitchen, and you read about it and you hear about it, how intense it is, and if you make a mistake and so on. So John was cleaning cuttlefish on his first day, and then he carried the cutting board back to the back dish area, but he walked through the pastry station, and I must have been like gone for a minute, and then I came back and I just saw a trail of black cuttlefish ink, and I was like, excuse me, and I followed the trail all the way back, and I see this new guy cleaning his cutting board in the back, and I was like, dude, you don't ever do that again.
It's true story.
High standards from the beginning.
I was like, no, that's not going to happen here, buddy.
And so you guys worked at Charlie Trotter's together, obviously, navigating the kitchen, and you got together. And then when did the dream collide? And you said, let's go do something on our own.
It was like 4 years. Well, I left and went to Alinea. So I spent 2 years at Charlie's, and then when Alinea opened in 2005, I left and joined the team there.
Yeah,
great.
And then we kind of just lost touch, really. I mean, we'd maybe see each other once in a while at a bar at late night or something like that. And we were kind of living our own lives separately, but always friends when we saw each other. And then...
Because Alinea and Charlie Trotter's are only within like half a mile of one another. So,
So post-work bar meetup was normal.
We might cross each other's paths.
Yeah, or like, they would finish before us, really. A lot of times, because you guys had like a cleaning crew where we had to do all the cleaning at our restaurant.
We did. We were lucky,
I would go out to the dumpster with grease dripping down my arm after cleaning the hoods, and John was out back one day, so. Yeah,
we ran into each other, but whatever, there was something clicked, and then, I don't know, for whatever reason, I looked at it a little differently, and there you go. And but then, time went on, nothing happened, and then. So, former head chef at Charlie Trotter's, they were getting ready to open Vegas, and so he kind of reached out and sort of tried to poach me from Alinea to be the head chef at the Vegas place.
Oh.
So and I think at that point we had just started dating, and then found out that she was going to be the pastry chef, or she had signed on to be the pastry chef in Vegas, or agreed to anyway. And so it started to make sense. And I said, and the offer was incredible. I mean, at this time I'm making no money at, 30, I told somebody 37,000 as a sous chef, in Chicago. At that time, and they were offering like 95. So I was like, okay, this sounds
Vegas
like a nice change, and plus I get to run a kitchen, and Charlie won't be there, and so get some autonomy. So that was great. But then it was like, I've never been to Vegas at that point, and so do I really want to move to Vegas?
No.
No is the answer.
So I went back to Charlie's. I left Alinea, went back to Charlie's to work for a while, and I just kind of got this feeling I took the job for the wrong reasons. I'm back working with Charlie, who I respect and love, but I was ready to be done with Charlie's at that point, and so decided to be done and leave. And then, okay, I have to find a job now. So, and what am I going to do? And started to kind of fish around for a while. And lo and behold, started to see some ads from the bishops are over here sitting next to the whole family. And they were looking for a chef to revamp the Townhouse Grill at the time. I liked the things they were saying. I was naive enough to even know what living in a town of that small would be like. But really, it didn't really matter to me. I was, we were going to be working in a kitchen with 4 walls. It didn't matter if it was there or New York, or it's we were there to kind of to grow our careers and do something new, and is the opportunity to kind of move to some place and be closer to food where it comes from. So we met with them, and we did a tasting. In the middle of the night, we packed up a cooler full of mise en place I did in my apartment, I think, or some things. And then we went to Crate and Barrel and bought plates, and we packed up in the middle of the night. I picked her up after a shift, and we drove there. And on no sleep, basically, maybe, 8 hours or something like that. And then did a tasting, and then we hit it off immediately and fell in love with the place. And we knew right away. They were like, okay, we're going to send a van tomorrow to pick you guys up or something like that. They knew, and then we tried to play it cool, but they dropped us off for lunch, I think, we had lunch, and we looked at each other and said, we're doing this for sure. Yeah. So, and that, so then we moved out to the countryside. So, yeah.
I know the energy that the rest of the culinary world felt when you guys took over Townhouse, and just like the whispers and just like the excitement behind it. But what was it like as a pretty fresh couple, just kind of manning your own space, your own restaurant, and how did that creativity come about?
I mean, I think the landscape was like the noise, it was literally and figuratively quiet, and it really allowed like us in terms of our creativity to draw from the landscape, and make great friendships with farmers and different artisans there that were offering products that we had never seen before, like quince juice and all sorts of berries and stuff that we had never heard of before. So it just was like a more quiet place when we're in the city, and if your competition is just there inevitably, and you're like, oh, what's this restaurant doing and that restaurant doing, or this chef, and you always kind of feel like you have to stay on the level. But here it was very free to kind of figure out who we were as individual chefs.
Yeah, which took a while.
Yeah. I think that's kind of similar here. Like the world comes here, which is great. Like you guys have come here, and so like the chefs get to see and experience your food, and the guests do. But you don't have that competition of being down the street, like if you were in New York or Chicago.
Totally.
Of what's
makes
this
a big
person doing?
difference in creativity.
Yeah.
And you can find your own voice, right?
Yeah.
So you all spent what, 4 years, 5 years?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the beginning was like, we were struggling to figure out, who we are, what we are. You come from Alinea, Charlie's, and now you're sort of, in the countryside, and you're like, oh, how do you even, cook? I didn't even know who we were as people at that point. So, but it started to change. She would go on runs a lot, and she passed up Queen Anne's Lace, which is wild carrot. It comes out this time of year, and I had no idea about any of that stuff. And she introduced it to me, and I said, holy cow. And then once we started to look around a little bit and really see what was out there, that kind of changed things and started to kind of put things on a more natural path, and then helped us really kind of find a voice and start to develop food that matched the area a little bit more. And so that was great. That was a pivotal moment.
So then, but the call of the city?
Yeah, the call of the city was, it was tough. We started having our first child, and things changed, and we decided to make a run at it and kind of go for our own thing. Chicago, it just happened to be. I think we were looking to be closer to family. Was the original, which her family's in the Northeast, and so we're trying to go in that direction. But it took about 4 years
to get there.
It took a long time, and a lot of struggles, a lot of failures along the way. A couple close calls of things happening, leases signed, and then landlords pulling the rug out for various reasons, and losing lots of money along the way.
Meanwhile, we're living with my parents.
Yeah.
So
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
with one kid, and they're like, "Hello, you guys." My dad kept saying, like, "This is the prime of your life, you guys. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And
They
we're like,
traveled
"Well,
a
we're
lot.
trying to do something."
Yeah. Oh, so during that time, we did an amazing thing. I think the lease that we had this amazing building in Georgetown that we were really excited about in DC.
Yeah.
That fell through, and that was pretty much the lowest point. I said to myself, okay, I'm not sure this is going to happen. We had to kind of rethink everything, and I had the idea of reaching back out to Cairo again and saying, could we do this pop-up, I guess, in a way, at Riverstead? So normally, we had the dinner was at Townhouse, but now we decided to do it at the inn instead. And so for about a year and a half, I think I would drive down once a month. We do it 3 nights in a row, and we just kind of kept the dream alive and kept going. So
I was on the email list. I remember.
Oh, were you really?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
So that was fun. It was a great opportunity for us to kind of get our start kind of running a business, I guess, in a way, a little mini business. And that was incredible. That was some of my favorite times. But it was stressful for sure. So, but along the way, our business partner who we're with now was, stuck with us the entire time. And he's from Chicago and kept saying, give Chicago one try, just one more try. And I love Chicago, but I was kind of done with it. I wanted to try something new. But of course, I go there and I find a restaurant one day, and that was it. The rest is history now. Yeah. So it was meant to be, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
How was that planning process? Once you got your restaurant, what were your next steps?
Okay, so we found the space, and it was much bigger than what we had thought of. We sort of always envisioned. So right now we have 2 restaurants. So Smyth, and then The Loyalist is below it. So Smyth is the restaurant that has 3 Michelin stars and stuff, and then The Loyalist is more casual. So we never envisioned opening The Loyalist at the same time as Smyth, but the space was what it was. So we went from planning one restaurant, which was like a continuation of our time in Chilhowie and our experience at Townhouse, and then at Riverstead, sort of continuing that. So that's why it's named Smyth, is from Smyth County, because that was just such a big moment for us in our lives. So we went from planning that to then planning 2 restaurants in one. So it got wild real quick.
People thought we were crazy.
But ignorance is bliss. We just did it. I think we know a lot now, which I think might be why we're a little slow to open up something else, because we just know that the journey is tough, But yeah, I think it took us, we signed the lease in, maybe 15 and then, or 14, and then opened in 2016.
Yeah.
And so
it's a miracle that any restaurant ever opens. I mean, there's just so much, you just can't imagine. You could tell people all you want, and they don't have, there's not enough time or conversation to go through everything that you have to do. And you guys know, I mean, you got to figure out literally everything, like this face and this glass and this bit and this. I mean, like everything. There's not like one, there's no package you can buy that's like, oh, we'll take care of this, at least this part.
Right.
Everything. You got to figure out, and then you got to raise the money, and then you have to open a restaurant while raising the money at the same time. So you're like literally constructing, but you can't really afford it. So you still raising money, and then you're like, you're trying to get to the finish line. It's really a silly business in a lot of ways.
It's a lot of hope.
Yeah, a lot of hope.
A lot of faith, and a lot of just head down and just get it done.
And that's not what you went to school for. I mean, your training was in food and food science and creativity. And I think that's one thing that I always find amazing from chefs. Like, even if it's just the inventory of the kitchen, like, you got to plan and you got to be business minded.
It's a learning learn as you go.
Yeah.
Process.
Yeah. So,
Um,
what was the moment when you two both looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, we did it"?
oh, that's a
Have we
good
done it?
question.
Have we done it
I
yet?
don't
I don't know if we've done that. I don't think we've said that to each other yet. Yeah.
It wasn't when you got #1 in North America, like a
No,
month
it doesn't.
ago?
Doesn't feel complete. It feels like it's always something more. You know, it is. It's
Yeah.
just. It's a nice day, and then tomorrow's a brand new day again for some reason. And like it just never ends. So
Like the 1-star, then the 2-star, then the
Yeah.
3-star. Like none
you know,
of
we
this.
just never did it for accomplishments. You know, just we came up at a time where, first of all, it wasn't even Michelin in the U.S. at that
Right.
time. So you know, we didn't grow up as European kids. You know, wanted to be a great 3-star chef one day. It's just. So they're great, obviously, and they're great for business. That's for sure. That's the best part. And it's good for the team. It's good for morale. It's good for you know, your ambition is justified, and so you say, okay, what else? What can we do more? And how can we make the experience better, or whatever? What new? Can we start a garden over here? Can we, you know, build an R&D kitchen now? Should we keep, you know? So it's always just keep going, keep
Going.
And really, it's just I think we're both, you know, like everybody. I'm sure it's successful. I like learning. You know, I like
Continuous
I'm
learning.
inquisitive. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, that's what fuels it more than the money or the awards. It's just.
Yeah, it's
Well,
little bits and pieces. We just sort of chisel away every day. I mean, you know, John is tweaking the menu every day, and the service team is tweaking the service and the hospitality and how you approach that. Like it's just little bits every day. It's just a very slow climb. So you know, we feel very fortunate with the accolades, but you know, we know that. You know, we're really under a microscope, so
Right.
we're just very, you know, just very grateful for where we are as of today.
Yeah.
I think that strong foundation that you talked about in the beginning, where you're like, I started at this restaurant or this culinary school that had really high standards.
Yes.
And, you know, working at a place like Charlie Trotter's, it's like no mistakes made,
That's right.
you know, really set you up for a baseline of excellence. And then you get to be great on top of that.
Yeah, I think so. That really set the bar high. Like what does excellence look like? Like we knew sort of what excellence looked like to Charlie Trotter, which we then left saying like, okay, we can take what we want from him, but you know, he ended up sort of being a bit notorious in some ways of his leadership. So we were able to take bits and pieces of our experience there. But we really do value our time there for sure in terms of like, because there's so many times where we say to ourselves now, like we find ourselves saying things that he would say, like you either get it or you don't, or
Yeah.
you
All
know,
the
there's
time.
so many things that we're like, oh, mom and dad, we're like the parents of the restaurant.
It's
and
like,
we're
yeah, when you're
saying,
young, you just don't understand. You know,
Yeah.
Parents are trying to teach you, and then you go, oh,
now I get
Now I
it.
get it. Now I'm running a restaurant. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just really grateful that we had that experience. It was very, very hard. I mean, I would call my parents all the time and be like, I can't do this anymore. They'd be like, just keep going, just keep pushing. I mean,
Try again tomorrow.
we would get out at like 3 or 4 in the morning
Ah.
and, you know, turn around and go back again. But it definitely helped build confidence and, you know, say to ourselves as young cooks what you actually can do. And by the time we left that experience, and then by the time we left Townhouse experience, it was like, you know, you can do hard things, and sometimes they're very uncomfortable, and then you just get to the next level, and then you keep just doing really hard things. So
And then you get good
we're
at
always-
doing hard things.
we're always torturing ourselves.
Yeah.
To this day.
I know that the industry, I know I came up in the late 90s, early 2000s. From an industry standpoint, like how has it changed for the better? And what are some obstacles that you run into with the younger cooks that are coming in the kitchen these days?
I mean, I think our kitchen is the level of excellence is there and probably then some. Because John is actually the working cook. Like he's, you know, behind a cutting board every day at 7 a.m. And really the creative mind behind the menu. So the excellence is there, the details are there. But I think all in all, it's just a more, we want to create an environment where it's collaborative and it's sort of inspirational on a regular basis. And you can't have that when you're scared to death and you're almost paralyzed and you're doing everything for somebody else. And I think maybe what we're trying to create is a place where people can where young cooks can sort of see what the possibilities are, and then, create their own sort of bubble of what excellence is to them, and allow them to sort of prosper at their own rate. Because like we can't tell you how to excel and how to do great. Like it's just like it kind of has to just come. And so we feel like we're trying to create an environment where you've got this high attention to detail, but yet allow the team to sort of figure out who they are as individuals. It's a balance for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. I think people, a generation below me, let's just say millennial, like, you can see a difference in a sense, and it's subtle. I'm Gen X, and it's subtle, but it's like you can tell that there's the way that I studied and tried to get ahead is different than the way they do it, which is fine, but there's things lacking. And I think there's a lot of lessons that things were maybe given in a certain way, and especially nowadays, really given. And we had to kind of not earn it by working harder, but just by being more inquisitive and more, if you wanted to learn something, you had to go eat there. You had to go buy the book. You had to go to a library or even a bookstore if you couldn't afford a book, and just sit there and
flip through the pages
and write recipes down and teach yourself. And you really had to go for it. And I think that's where those lessons have stuck with us in a way where we're sort of always hungry for more. And that knowledge, and you're seeing that difference is a lot more of like, hey, can you show me how to do this? Or how did you get there? And I don't really feel like I ever asked those questions when I was coming up. It was more like just going to go attack it and figure it out along the way. It's just a different mentality. So, when you're trying to train and lead people along the way now, as I get older, it's, I'm having to adjust my thinking in order to employ 60 plus people at a time. So it's become it's different, it's challenging.
But there's also got to be things that like the young team members bring that we didn't have,
For
right?
sure.
Like they have so much access to things that are on the internet and what have you. So are there skill sets that are like surprisingly like delightful?
I'm with you.
I'm thinking. I'm not trying to be rude. I mean, look, because look, at the end of the day, every generation figures it out. And I'm sure they'll figure it out, and when push comes to shove.
Just not yet.
And I think what we try to do is, we try to do it the same way, even with our kids. You lead them to water and you go, you got to go for it. You got to figure it out on your own a little bit. And I'm only going to teach you so much or give you so much. And that creates, that can create people leaving, walking out the door. And I think that's okay. As long as you're willing to, now go prep someone's station if they decide to walk out. Right. So we run a really, there's a ton of humility that goes through between Karen and I, the bishops, the people we surround ourselves with. We'd like to keep that humility throughout. So it creates a really good atmosphere. And I think for the younger generation, they can appreciate that. And, they assume that I'm just going to be a monster because, we're at this level, or I'm going to be some, crazy chef yelling and throwing pans, but that doesn't really create anything great, I think. And,
but they have to level up.
But they have to level up. They really need to push themselves.
Communication is greater now than it was. I mean, when we were young cooks, line cooks, we didn't question anything. We just sort of did what we were told. And so I think communication is better. And I think, the generation now is really about collaborative work and about teamwork and less about a hierarchy of top down and more sort of linear in its approach. And we love that. Whereas I think our upbringing in kitchens was very top down, and you just sort of did what you were told, and it was sort of more military style. Right. We didn't really bring creativity to the chef early on in our careers. And so I think the communication and the openness is there now, which I think is really great. Because as a chef, I feel like you welcome that.
Mhm.
I think it's probably still nerve-wracking to come up with a dish and have John taste it, and you wonder, as the young cook, you wonder, what is he going to say? But I think ultimately you would love for that to happen.
I would love more of that, actually. Yeah.
You're like,
Take some
please bring
take
it.
some risks. Well, just take some risk, and obviously there's the mantra, there's no failure, and I really believe that there is no failure, because if you fail, you go, okay, well, let's not do that again. And, you know what I mean? That's so, or this reminds me of that. That's not, we're not going to put that in the menu, but man, that could really swing this dish over here, or
Right.
So it's just the constant. I mean, that's creativity. That's the constant movement.
Try and fail.
Try and fail. I mean,
Yeah.
So, or mostly fail, but
You learn the most from failures. At least I do.
sure. I think the failure part is, I think, the biggest thing holding people back now, and I think maybe they know too much. I think a good dose of being naive is great, because you just don't know what's on the other side, so you just kind of go for it, and you're probably going to fail, but now people, I just kind of see that with the younger generation. They kind of just hold back a little too much. And
Do you have any concerns for the restaurant industry moving forward?
finance,
Yeah.
Running as a business sense.
People go out and eat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Well, prices keep going higher, and,
Yeah.
and then I think the way the economy is going, we'll see how it goes. But that's one of the reasons why we're not looking to run a restaurant right now, or open a restaurant. Is because it's double. I mean, what we opened the Smyth and Loyalist for would be double or more now than what it used to be. I have to charge $29 for a burger now. And I should charge more.
Right.
So it's just getting tougher, for sure.
I think hospitality, though, is just part of human nature, and I think maybe with technology has gotten the best of us and sort of made us lose sight of like the origins of hospitality. And I mean, that's what Blackberry does so well, is it transports you and then allows you to spend time with friends and family and really like connect over food and connect over the landscape. And so there's folks who just want to hit all of the best or hit all of these, and it's almost like a race or a game. But I think I at least think the experience that we offer at Smyth is sort of like simple for being a 3-star. It's not simple. It's hard to explain really what I'm saying.
It's personal.
It's personal.
It's raw
and-
a little bit.
yeah. And I think I sort of hope that chefs that are coming up and opening really great places sort of bring that level of authenticity to the menu and the dining experience, because I know that guests can sense that and feel that and taste that. And I think so. I do have hope for dining and food and hospitality, that it will sort of come back to the roots. But right now it does feel a little like a race for some folks. So it gets a little diluted at that point.
How about some questions from the audience?
Oh,
Yeah, all right. Huh.
Hi.
You talked about creativity from a menu standpoint. How often do you rotate your menu?
Just so I can share this with the audience at home, how much do you rotate the menu?
It could be super spontaneous. I mean, sometimes we might change dishes in the middle of the service.
John is known for changing the menu.
I get bored. It
A
comes
lot.
out of the learning thing. I just kind of like go, oh, what would happen if we did that? And it's not the best, because it creates a lot of chaos in the kitchen for the cooks, and they don't respond to it quite as
And
easily
wine
as I think they should.
pairings,
But,
like it matters, but
wine pairings, that does matter too.
that is what John is. He's always moving, always changing things.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons why we got the number one, is because we're always moving things forward. And I think that list is very much about relevance. And so I think we're in that little moment, that little pocket right now. And I want to keep that going for a while. So not settle in too much.
When it comes to a comfort food that takes you back to your roots, your childhood, what would that meal be that you would prepare?
The comfort food that takes you back to your childhood and your roots. What is it?
I grew up with a Sicilian family. My mom's side is Sicilian, so it was Sunday pasta at my grandmother's house.
Yeah. Me, my poor mom, single mother, and for most of my upbringing, and she tried her best, and I wasn't really picky, but let's just say I had some opinions at a certain point, and so she kind of gave up, and so, but she was a great cook, and she really tried. I mean, I still remember her roast chicken was great, and she'd make, we'd always have just bananas rotting on the counter, and so she'd make these banana milkshakes all the time for me as a kid. So, and I make them for the kids now too, and they love them. So there you go. Yeah.
All right, so we've got one final closing question. You've spent your careers pursuing excellence, but you've built a life together around food, hospitality, and community. When all is said and done, what do you hope people have felt when they've sat at one of your tables?
Just comfortable. I think we really, in my opinion, we created Smyth to be a place where you didn't have to know a lot about food, and if you didn't know an ingredient or how to eat a dish, that was okay. We don't have a dress code. It's really come as you are. The thought of having to go home and get dressed up did not feel authentic to us, and so I think just to feel comfortable and taken care of is what I would want our guests to feel after dining there.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, we spend all of our time, or I spend all of my time working on these dishes, and I slave over like this detail or that detail. And then at the end of the day, there's very few details that people are actually going to remember as a whole. So I think as a whole is what's important. And I think Thomas Keller talked about how it's really just about memories, and triggering those memories. And he said something along the lines of, when people come here, they go to the French Laundry, let's say, this reminds me of when I was, dining in this restaurant in Paris or Japan or wherever it might be. And he said, my only hope is that one day they'll go to that restaurant or someplace else and say, this reminds me of the French Laundry. So I hope people, go somewhere and say, oh, this reminds me of Smyth, or the feeling I get. That's the hope. It's really, at the end of the day, it's just about memories and sharing them together. Food's just kind of along for the ride. So it makes it fun.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Just for everyone at home, I want to make sure that they know where to find you. If they haven't heard, which are they living under a rock? But so the Smyth.com or socials, or can you share that real quick?
Oh, on Instagram, Smyth Chicago, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
SmythandTheLoyalist.com is a website. Yeah.
We'll make sure we put everything on the show notes, and we really appreciate you all sitting down with us today. And
Thanks.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your stay.
Thank you.
And thank all of you all.
Thank you.